For many years, there have been speculations surrounding the true belief or religion of known Hollywood actor, Mel Gibson. People wonder if he is really an atheist or a Christian, as hinted in some of his statements. And now, during a recent interview, Mel Gibson has surprised everyone by finally revealing the truth about his faith. In the interview, he opened up about his belief in God, adding that he believes in the existence of Jesus. But the events connected to his pronounced faith have left experts and media houses talking. Why did Mel Gibson accept Jesus? And how has this changed him? Join us as we uncover what happened. Mel Gibson's turning point, from scandal to redemption. Mel Gibson's life began to take a new turn 12 years ago when he was 35 years old. It was at that middle-aged point of his life that he began to question a lot of life's philosophies and seek the truth that will save him from a crashing life. As a rising actor with an extremely good talent, he was fastly becoming famous, and a lot of attention was on him, prying into both his career and personal life. The cost of his increasing popularity and wealth was probably the many ear-itching controversies, scandals, and accusations that began to surround his life at that time. Because of this, Gibson's popularity declined somewhat around the early 21st century, because of those controversial topics connected to his name and different off-screen incidents that also occurred in his life. You will be shocked to hear what we are about to reveal. The controversies and off-screen incidents started with a popular belief that he was anti-Semitic, a form of racism in which he demonstrated hostility towards certain minority groups, particularly Jews. After the release of his famous movie, The Passion of the Christ, intense controversy was provoked among Jews, and many Christians saying that the movie depicted Jews in an anti-Semitic fashion, projecting the idea that Jews are those responsible for the death of Jesus. We will give more details on this as the video progresses. Also, Gibson has many a times been accused by people, such as prominent scriptwriter Joe Esterhazy, for making anti-Semitic remarks where he referred discriminatorily to Jews while they worked on a project named Maccabees. Esterhazy claimed that Gibson had a wrong motivation for making Maccabees, and because of that, he refused to continue work with him. Earlier, before that incident was revealed, actress Winona Ryder accused him of making an offensive comment towards her gay friend and also referring to Jews as oven dodgers. According to the Stranger Things actress, Mel Gibson was smoking a cigar, and they were all talking when he asked her friend who is gay if he was going to contract AIDS later in their conversation. Something came up about Jews, and he derogatorily asked her if she was possibly an oven dodger. Mel Gibson, to avoid a pity party, didn't really divulge why, but some of his actions and addictions are a hint of his early inner struggles and the pains of the past that had drifted him from faith. For decades, he struggled with alcoholism. His drinking was uncontrolled, and he even refused medications. Prior to joining Alcoholics Anonymous in 1991, 15 years from, he said he had thought about suicide. During an interview about The Passion of the Christ and his struggles with ABC News' Diane Sawyer, he told Sawyer that he had hit the bottom of life about that time, 15 years before he produced The Passion for Christ. In the interview, Gibson said he didn't want to go on with life at that point, and confessed to attempting to jump out a window at his lowest moments. It seemed like it was an easier route. These challenging periods revealed to him his spiritual bankruptcy, and ultimately led him to re-examining Christianity, and ultimately make the film The Passion of the Christ. Mel Gibson's path to redemption and the birth of the Passion of the Christ. In his exclusive interview on ABC News, Gibson also added that it felt like he had just hit his knees and just asked for help. Then, he began to meditate on the gospel and go down the memory lane of his childhood days when he used to read his Bible. In his foreword to Tyndale House's The Passion, Gibson said the film had its genesis during a time in which he found himself trapped with feelings of terrible, isolated emptiness. In a sentence, the project rescued him from himself and gave him a personal sense of salvation. At the film Willow Creek, he told the pastors of his feeling of emptiness, regret, despair, and pain. He began neglecting his faith from when he was 17 and almost going to 18. Gibson said that he had always believed, but that he only remembered prayers when he found himself in trouble. He revealed that he had discovered that when a person neglects prayer, such a person is liable to fall into chaos. But what really was this film about? Why was it such an impactful outshoot of Gibson's decision to return to God? Keep watching to find out the shocking truth behind the film Gibson was inspired to make. The film The Passion of the Christ is an epic American biblical drama which was officially released on February 25, 2004. The film was co-written, co-produced, and directed by Mel Gibson himself. According to an interview by Zenith News Agency, the idea for the movie didn't just emanate within the time of acting but has been slowly coming on for about 10 or 12 years before. Growing up in a family where he was brought up in a certain way to believe in God, he had always believed that he existed. But as we pointed out earlier, in his middle years, he somehow drifted, and other things like his career, fame, wealth, women, and addictions took center stage. At that point, he realized he needed something more if he was going to survive. He felt the strong need to draw closer to the Gospels and understand it better. The story, the whole piece of it, and what it really was about. It was at the point of his investigation of the Gospel that the idea started to build up inside my head. He began to see the Gospel as a realistic story, recreating it in his own mind, so that it would make better sense to him and so he could relate to it and not just view it as a historical event. When he began to view the Gospel realistically and gain a more personal understanding of what it was, he wanted others to see that view also and so was inspired to put it on the screen. The world's view of the Passion of Christ. As suggested by the title of the film, its scenes primarily cover the final 12 hours of suffering and pain before the death of Jesus Christ, embodied in the phrase known as the Passion. It begins with the agony in the Garden of Olives at Gethsemane, followed by the betrayal of Judas Iscariot, the brutal scourging at the pillar, the suffering of Mary as prophesied by Simeon, the crucifixion and death of Jesus, and finally ends with a brief depiction of his resurrection. Significant moments in Jesus' life were also dispersed in the movie's narrative, such as the Last Supper and the Sermon on the Mount, where he teaches and tells parables to a crowd, and moments of Jesus' early life. Most of the scenes of the film were shot in Italy, and the dialogue used was entirely restructured in Aramaic, Hebrew, and Latin, even though Gibson wasn't in support of the idea at first. It was later released in subtitles. The movie stars actor Jim Caviezel as Jesus of Nazareth, Maya Morgenstern as Mary the mother of Jesus, and Monica Bellucci as Mary Magdalene. The film was controversial and drew mixed reviews from critics. Some considered it as being contradictory, others saw it as an anti-Semitic propaganda, while others praised it for the emphasis it made on the sufferings of Jesus and how it provides a holy experience for viewers. This religious blockbuster has sparked controversy because of some reasons, such as its portrayal of Jesus' agony in a deliberately detailed manner, leaving nothing to the imagination. Gibson stated that his Jesus will be shaken by his human suffering, and that real blood will flow from the wound in his side, and they will be real screams of his crucifixion. According to Russ Bravo, editor of the Christian Herald, Mel Gibson has had far too much success since he was able to put together more than 2 hours of absolutely gripping scenes that are both tremendously powerful and extremely brutal at the same time. The way the story of Jesus' last 12 hours is dramatized, going from trial scenes and horrifying violence to flashbacks of his early life and later ministry, brings Jesus to life on the big screen. According to a blog by J.P. Thackway, a woman who saw the film in the US wrote on a website that the film was unrelentingly violent and describes it as being soaked in blood. Jesus is beaten till his ribs are visible. Blood spatters all over the cobblestones, and the sound is terrifyingly realistic. And it doesn't end after a critical moment or two. It goes on and on. Non-stop violence. The initial brutal scenes made her flinch and cringe. It was difficult for her to watch, especially after already seeing Jesus being whipped half to death. When Mel Gibson was asked about the graphic scenes that seemed inappropriate to people, this was his reason. He thinks people have gotten too used to seeing pretty crucifixes on the wall and forget the realness of what really happened and what it entails. Growing up, he didn't realize what was involved in the crucifixion and didn't realize how hard it was. He says the full horror of what Jesus suffered for our redemption didn't really strike him. When he understood what Jesus had gone through, even on a human level, it made him feel not only compassion, but also a debt, a desire to repay him for the enormity of his sacrifice. On the other hand, the movie received several positive reviews. Many American evangelicals have embraced the film with delight. The welcoming opinion appears to be in two folds. First and foremost is the spiritual benefits to Christians. Del Tackett of Focus on the Family stated that it had been about 3 weeks since he saw the rough cut of The Passion, and it was still affecting his life. He could not take his mind off it or stop talking about it. He had never seen a film that had left such an impact on his life like The Passion. Second welcoming opinion focused on the evangelistic value of the film. Evangelists regarded it as a more effective instrument for evangelization than anything they could have created. Ed Young Jr., who is the pastor of Dallas Area Fellowship Church, said he has no doubt that the film will be one of the most effective evangelistic tools in contemporary history. But this didn't bring an end to the reviews, particularly the criticism. Keep watching to see how harshly the Passion of the Christ was criticized and how strong contentions rose against it. You probably never saw it coming, but the Passion of the Christ was widely criticized and accused of being anti-Semitic, promoting the view that Jews were responsible for Jesus' killing. Religious scholar Marcy Lenk wrote in a blog that after seeing Mel Gibson's film, he had no trouble calling it anti-Semitic. The video shows Jews as unreasonably hateful, rejecting a holy man for no apparent reason other than their hatred. Also, in the film, Judas had a hallucination in which small Jewish boys transformed into little demon toddlers, and Pontius Pilate is an attractive, compassionate, and wise governor who reluctantly succumbs to the demands of the uncontrolled Jews in order to prevent a rebellion. Mel Gibson has denied these accusations, saying that it was not a film about Jews versus Christians. He supported his stance, stating that Jesus himself was a Jew, his mother too, and also the 12 disciples. He explained that the struggle between good and evil and the overwhelming power of love goes beyond race and culture, and that the film is about faith, hope, love, and forgiveness, things that the world could use more of, particularly in turbulent times. Mel Gibson continues to maintain that the film is meant to inspire and not to offend. Seat tight, it gets even more interesting. Maybe you're wondering why Mel Gibson is connected to different anti-Semitic headlines. Well, looking into his religious roots and beliefs might give you a better understanding. Mel Gibson is said to have taken after his father, Hutton Gibson, who was a devout Catholic, but a fierce opponent of everything concerning the Second Vatican Council. According to different sources, Hutton Gibson was also fanatically anti-Semitic. In an interview in 2004, he claimed that the Holocaust never happened. A year before the interview, he told the New York Times Magazine that Vatican II was a Freemasonry scheme backed by Jews. Mel Gibson, like his father, rejects the current Catholic Church and identifies as a Sedevacantist Catholic. Gibson's background is likewise marked by a number of anti-Semitic utterances, comparable to those of his father. In 2013, he had an interview with Republican wordsmith Peggy Noonan for Reader's Digest. Outtakes from the interview, which were eventually released, showed him casting doubt on the number of Jews killed in the Holocaust. Moving on with his reconciled religious life, Gibson has built his own church in the Agoura Hills, not so far from Malibu. The Church of the Holy Family, which holds services in Latin, but is not affiliated with the Catholic Church. For years now, Gibson has also been seeking forgiveness from the general public and Jews for some of his anti-Semitic remarks. While some Catholics think it's high time he's forgiven, some others think his pleas are not genuine, and that he is yet to prove true repentance. This is probably because Gibson was raised as a Sedevacantist traditionalist Catholic, and believes that there have not been any true popes since the death of Pope Pius VII in 1958. For Sedevacantists, all popes thereafter have mixed up with modern trends, and hence the See of Rome remains vacant to them. Christian forum blogs expressed that people still feel Mel Gibson is not a true Christian because of his traditional Catholic beliefs. However, a Christian professes his beliefs in Jesus Christ, and Mel Gibson is someone who loves and has professed his beliefs in Christ in different ways. Gibson's story is a reminder of how the journey of faith is an individual journey and how it can be shaped by our roots and experiences. What is your take on Mel Gibson's faith? Do you think he will be a better Christian despite his shortcomings? Feel free to leave your comments in the comment section below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Also, click on the next video shown on your screen. You'll love it.